I really should lose weight before I knock over everything. Professor Dubey, Mr. Eric Falt, Kumar Bhattaraiji, my old friend Radha Alkazi, and my other friends in the audience. सबसे पहले I would like to congratulate Amrish ji for who has started this dialogue, and his team and the organizers, because I always feel that countries should come together, because especially South Asia, Southeast Asian countries should come together, discuss these problems pertaining to children. We share commonalities of culture, attitudes, and I think we'll be able to find solutions together. As you all know, most of you, that I was working basically in disabilities, but after coming to this sector, for the last 3 years, one has been, as the minister said, he was caught in the urban space, I was caught in the child rights space. And I find that our children are facing a lot of violence. I don't know why we are not nurturing our children. Children are a gift of God. They're given to us in trust. We don't own them. And yet, even parents are totally misbehaving with their children, not looking after them. They are suffering violence both in the public space and in the personal space, within their homes and outside homes. Outside homes, chalo, the child doesn't belong to a person, so they feel that they can do whatever they want with the child. But why inside homes? And the effects of childhood violence don't leave the individual. I think they follow him to the grave. Today we are getting so many adult survivors of child sexual abuse. They are women my age, they are men my age, and yet they have not forgotten the horrible experience of child sexual abuse and other violences they may have suffered at the hands of their loved ones, near and dear ones. So that shows how deep-rooted the effects of childhood violence are. And therefore, I am very happy that we have started this dialogue. And it should extend not only to the school system. Schools are easy. ठीक है, RT Act are there, but they are institutions also. And they are also, that is where we can go and maybe engender the change that is needed for making the society safer for our children. As you all know, NCPCR is the apex body for monitoring child rights, violation to child rights, and we are also mandated to monitor RT Act. And we did a lot of data collection, I would say. Data mining is yet to come. But collecting the data was also a huge task. There are 14 lakh schools, out of which private schools are quite a number, about more than almost 4 lakhs private schools. And there are about 85 lakh teachers in schools, out of which about 36 lakh teachers are in private schools. I'm giving this lay of the land because not only are we dealing with government schools, which have the weight of the government, it is much easier talking to the government schools, ensuring that the message of safety, POXO Act, JJ Act goes down right to the grassroots level. But in private schools, what are we finding? We are finding that most states are very scared of talking to the private schools. That incident that happened in Ryan School, where that adult, I would say older child, was caught for apprehended for killing the younger child, that horrible incident that happened. Now, had my member not gone there, had he not rushed to Ryan School, this FIR would have never been lodged against the management, who are running these enterprises and with impunity are flouting all rules. Nobody seems to be sort of in charge. Every time I go, I ask the state government officials, by DEO hai, district excise education officer hai, who is in charge? CBSE is in charge. Who is in charge? Everybody seems to sort of look the other way. I said, but then lodge an FIR, JJ Act is there, because if a management is running an enterprise, which is a school, After all, if there was a fire in a factory, you would haul up the top boss there, lodge an FIR, let us see. And after that, only private schools have started becoming conscious of something like the POXO Act. We are getting requests, please come and give us a talk on POXO Act. We want to understand it more. This act was there from 2012. But it took that incident to bring this message home, that it's not only you can, in a private school, teachers are teaching, they are at the mercy of the management. And some of them had not even heard of POXO Act or other things. It's very easy to catch an employee. You have to send the message home. Everybody has to learn to understand that children need to be safe, and children are changing also. In my childhood, I don't recall of any child knifing another child. But today we have the Tryon School, we have the Vadodara School, and with all the kind of inappropriate, I would really think it is that those images of violence that goes on, the violent games that children play today, the kind of toy gun machines they have in hand, and the kind of stuff they see on internet, it is certainly influencing the minds of children. And this kind of juvenile violence will, I hope it doesn't, but it may just increase. And therefore, we have to look into what is happening outside the schools also. Now, with teachers and all, we are also from the commission trying to sensitize the teachers, including private school teachers, about just the elements of the bare act of POXO, what it entails, what is mandatory reporting, how should you go about it. But then I get this feeling that they are also ill-equipped to change with the environment that is changing. I mean, the technology that we have today is changing the environment from a very traditional kind of environment. The whole milieu has changed. The minds are changing. And parents don't think twice before giving smartphones in the hands of children, and there's no monitoring. They think it's something that a gadget, a gizmo, is what should be given to a child, without realizing what that gadget and gizmo is doing to the mind of the child. So therefore, we have to look at it in a very holistic manner. We also need to look, apart from the management, the other people who are involved in running of the school, the staff are pertinent to it. The problem of dropout of school girls, of girls especially, and even I would say is more because of the problems of reaching to the school. When I was working in disabilities, one of my blind friends, visually impaired friends, said, "Madam, you talk about joining work." Yes, I can, but how do I get to work? The kind of molestation we face, the kind of problems we face, where is the transportation, safe transportation for women? How do we get to that work? So it's often this, the lack of safety outside the school environment. Now again, it is society. Why should, even if you have to, as a child, go out, a lot of girls we found were being raped when they go out to defecate, and they have to be safe toilets for them, but certainly they will be somewhere away from the house. I mean, we are getting cases of a parent taking a small child to a relative's house, and while the parent and the child are sleeping, the relative rapes the child. I mean, what is happening? I mean, this safety concept, we have to really get into it, and all of us need to work about it. The Commission Care on its way has, as Radhika mentioned, has crunched together this manual because there were so many guidelines in the system. So my member said, I said, first thing first, bring everything on this on the table so that there is no confusion. People don't have to say, "Acha, this was written in this manual, this was written in this manual," and therefore I said, bring everything together, because safety security, as the minister said, urban development में है तो location है, इसमें है तो social development में है तो education, एजुकेशन है, तो हर का एक एंगल अलग रहता है. Now, then we have looked into this issue because this was something which safety security of children is something which I would say has been the kind of space I have been locked into, because as I felt, if a child cannot be secure, if a child cannot have a happy childhood, what kind of individuals are we incubating today? That they are a game for everybody, within the family and outside the family. So therefore, this has been something that we have worked upon, the elements of JJ Act, sensitize the police officers, create child-friendly environment, how to deal with children, come to the parents, how to deal with children, how to bring up your children, sensitize the teachers, at least they should know how to deal with children who have these tendencies. Or if a case happens in a school, how to deal with it, what is the law, what does it say. So a lot of our time has been spent in generating a lot of information, to demystify information and to make it simple for the person using it. Now, one big gap that I won't take much of your time because a lot you'll be discussing this issue exhaustively, that we did was when we discovered that there were these suicides in Kota. Kota, as you know, is the coaching hub. There are 2-3 other hubs, one in Chandigarh, one somewhere else, where children, ambitious parents are pushing children into engineering and things, and sending very young children, 16-year adolescent, just when they need their parents around, to live in these hostels. There were no guidelines for that also, and everybody said it's a hostel, it is out of JJ, it is out of this, it is out of RT. So I said, look, let's use the CPCR Act and let us create guidelines for it, because CPCR Act has a very broad mandate. It just doesn't put things into narrow categories, and therefore we have created these guidelines for hostels. Wherever children are residing, there have to be guidelines. There have to be, some awareness about how to treat with children, so that they don't live. I mean, the conditions in some of these education in hostels was really very sad, and therefore that is something which we have done as a new initiative. And before I close, I would just like to reiterate that we have to think deeply about the safety of our children. We should not deprive them of a childhood. And unless a child has a happy childhood, how does the child develop? Some part of the brain gets, I would say, the scar remains in some part of the brain. And there have been studies to show that actually effects of childhood violence, corporal punishment to bahut hota hai. I'm not even touching on it because CSA is a much more heinous crime. Child sexual abuse is a much more heinous crime, and done by, as Mr. Eric mentioned, bullying is there between children themselves. That leaves a very bad effect. Corporal punishment is there as a disciplining measure. Then even as I mentioned, the cases of Vadodara and Gurugram of older children bullying younger children to the extent of killing and knifing them. So this kind of thing is there, but we really, really need to spread this message. Protect your children. They are there. They have been given to us in trust. Every soul decides where it is to be born. No parent owns the child. This is something that we have to discuss. We spread this message that we protect our children, help them achieve their potential. It has been calculated in money terms that childhood violence, when it comes to future productivities, the countries lose by as much as 2 to 8% due to childhood violence. So think of it, when I was in disabilities, we used to get a lot of money telling budgetary grant, telling the government, ki if you give us this benefit, such and such benefit, our disabled people will improve the GDP by 1%. Here we are losing already, a lot of productivity by not being good to our children. Thank you so much. Safely here.
Thank you very much. Since we are already 1 hour late for the next session, I think it will be grave injustice to the people who will be participating in that session to further prolong it. So I would eschew my remarks as President, Chairperson, and bring this meeting to an end so that the next session can start. Thank you.
That's the right thing to do. Okay. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.